What's up everyone, we're back. I'm Dr. Shah.
Dr. Maxfield.
Welcome back to our channel, Doctorly, where we talk about all things skincare and dermatology. And in this video, we're gonna be talking about the retinoid uglies. A lot of people, and even to this day, I get tons of comments and I get tons of DMs about how people don't wanna start retinoids because they're afraid of the side effects that come with them. So in this video, we're gonna be talking about the different side effects that you can experience with retinoids, the ones where you wanna just power through, the ones where you wanna slow down, and the ones where you would actually want to stop a retinoid. So we're gonna show you the different types of conditions, and we're gonna tell you what to do when you have that type of reaction.
Is it purging? Is it irritation? Is it an allergic reaction? Should you stop it? Or if you push through, what will happen? All things retinoid uglies, here we go.
Here we go. If you are new to the Doctorly channel, what on earth is a retinoid? It is a vitamin A derivative, and retinoids are essentially the family of vitamin A derivatives, and there are many things that fall within this family. And so that includes retinol, retinaldehyde, tretinoin, tazarotene, adapalene, and now there's some newer ones, but these are kind of the main ones that we deal with. And so when we talk about retinoids, we're talking about this family of vitamin A derivatives that do many things. They treat acne, they create hyperpigmentation, they help with fine lines and wrinkles, they speed up skin cell turnover, improving texture, and so on and so forth.
Quite arguably the greatest family of topical ingredients for skincare. I'm almost unarguably the greatest benefits are going to be from this class, which is why it's worth it to talk about this.
Should you stop your retinoid? When should you avoid starting your retinoid? This is a good question. So the only time I would say that retinoids are contraindicated, meaning that you can't use them, would be during pregnancy. And the risk is actually quite low if you're pregnant, but even then, the dogma, the constant thing that we say in the derm community is to avoid retinoids while you're pregnant because you don't want those very high doses of vitamin A. Now during breastfeeding, they're perfectly fine. And then beyond that, we gotta talk about what type of side effects people commonly experience. So let's start off with the first one, which is what I experienced when I first started using a retinoid, and that is retinoid dermatitis, also known as retinoid irritation.
So this looks like redness, dry skin, chapped feeling skin, and some flakiness. But if you think about how retinoids work, whether it's tretinoin, tazarotene, retinol, they increase skin cell turnover. It's an extremely beneficial quality that keeps your pores from getting clogged, improves texture, actually removes existing pigment, lightens your skin in a good way, but it also inherently causes some initial irritation and flakiness. Now, what does that mean? And we'll probably do this for each category. This is a game, this is a game. So if you experience this, should you stop it or should you push through? What do you do?
So there's two things you can do. So I'll tell you what I did and I'll tell you what worked for me, and I can tell you some options that you can have here. So what I did was I just slowed down. Basically, I came back to the dermatologist who prescribed it to me and I said, hey, why am I having all this irritation? My skin wasn't red before, it wasn't irritated before, now my products are stinging. What do I do? Now bear in mind, it wasn't itching, it was burning my skin. So it was more of a burning and irritation thing that was occurring. And they're like, wait, did you use it every single night, the highest dose that we prescribed to you? And I was like, yeah, like I didn't know any better than that. And so what I basically do in these scenarios is you can just slow down. Now, if your barrier is actively irritated, I would take a week off because you gotta give your barrier some time to repair. That means at night, just cleanse and moisturizer until your barrier gets back intact, and go back to using it every other night or every third night until your skin gets acclimated to it. So this is a scenario where you're pushing through, but you're slowing down. And this is also the time where you can use that retinoid sandwich. You take your moisturizer, you put your retinoid on top of it, and then you put your moisturizer on top of that. That's really just gonna create a buffer so that your barrier can repair itself. So this is either where you slow down or you do the retinoid sandwich, but it's not a sign that you should completely stop your retinoid altogether and that retinoids are not for you. This is one of those scenarios where it's an expected reaction and you need to power through because that's actually how the medication works.
You know, he mentioned a key feature too. I think this is one of the most common things I hear in the real world is people say it in and of itself isn't painful or it's not burning or stinging, but other things that normally don't irritate your skin now do, like your normal face wash, your lotion, that falls into this category. That's a sign that you're just experiencing retinoid dermatitis. It is an expected result based off of how the ingredient works, and it actually gets better by slowing down and pushing through it over time.
Then the next thing is purging. So this is what purging looks like. It's basically when suddenly you start a retinoid, whether it's tretinoin or retinol, and your skin actually starts to break out more. And you're thinking to yourself, well, tretinoin and retinoids, these are acne treatments, and they're meant to treat acne, and they treat actually all the causes of acne. So why all of a sudden am I breaking out? And it's, again, this goes back to how the medication actually works. So by speeding up that skin cell turnover, it's gonna push out all the acne bumps that you were gonna get over the next month or 2 months. And if you're somebody who says, well, I never break out, why am I breaking out all of a sudden? You could be somebody that has those closed comedones, that textured skin, what we call blind pimples, where you run your finger over your forehead and suddenly feel that texture. A lot of times those are pimples that have not been able to express themselves out because your skin cells are too sticky. And by decreasing the cohesiveness of your skin cells, it pushes that acne out. Now you're gonna panic in this scenario because suddenly you're breaking out worse, but that means again that it's working, and usually this means that you wanna power through it.
Right, you gotta push through this because it is actively improving your skin. It's just one step back and then 2 steps forward. There was a time, I believe, that purging was actually controversial in terms of its existence. I don't know if you remember this. This was years ago on social media, and I think a lot of our colleagues were like, it doesn't exist. And our caveat, I think Dr. Shaw told me this was his example first, or it was my example, it doesn't really matter, but the Accutane. If you take oral isotretinoin, it is a well-known medical fact that some people have severe purging called acne conglobata or acne fulminans. And so this is a severe form of purging when you start oral retinoids, and we have different ways to calm down that inflammation to treat it. But again, it definitely is a condition that exists, and it exists topically, and it is something that you need to be aware of so you don't panic. You just know that it gets better with time and treatment.
Yeah, that's one of the things in dermatology. You might hear some differing opinions. For us, I think a lot of times we get down to like how the mechanism of how things work, and also what we've seen in clinic occurring and what we see in the comments. So we actually have the ability to like comment farm by reading like 1 million patient interactions that we're basically reading through. So we also have the advantage of dealing with tons of you giving us feedback on how things work and what you're experiencing. And so I definitely see purging in my patients. I definitely see purging online. I definitely experience purging myself. And if you think about the mechanism, purging is something that makes sense that it exists, and we see it happen in extreme cases like on Accutane. So the next thing I would say is an allergic reaction. And a lot of people think they're having an allergic reaction when we're really having that retinoid dermatitis or irritation that I talked about earlier. Now, retinoid allergic reaction, it's important to recognize this because this is when you're gonna wanna stop using your retinoid. Now, it's difficult to know whether or not you're having an allergic reaction to the retinoid itself, whether it's retinol, tretinoin, retinaldehyde, or an allergic reaction to an ingredient within the base of that formula. So if there's like a fragrance in the formula or there's another irritating ingredient that you're allergic to, that could be triggering the allergic reaction. But what this looks like is you're also gonna get that redness, you're also gonna get that irritation, but allergic reactions are itchy and they're not burny, if that makes sense.
Right, so there's a couple of key distinguishing features to help you out here. One of which is the itch. It is the most prominent feature probably with an allergic reaction. And additionally, it's going to expand beyond the areas where you directly applied it because your immune system is actually getting activated, and it's like an army, and it just kind of spreads out, not widespread, but beyond where you actually applied the product. So like you might notice your ears are getting involved, even your neck. You're like, I didn't put anything quite on there. That is indicative of an allergic reaction as opposed to irritation, which is limited to right where you used it. So itchiness, expanding beyond the borders of where you applied it, and this is an indication to stop. And I'll say this, if you decide you're not sure, and you're like, well, maybe it was just like a bad experience, then you can come back to it and try a test spot on your forearm, introduce it back slowly, maybe switch products to something very simple with like very few added ingredients, like just adapalene or simple tretinoin. Just apply that to your forearm once a day for a week, see what kind of reaction you get, and then you can, with a little bit of confidence, say, okay, it wasn't an allergic reaction, it must have been irritation, and then you go back to the first step and just try it again slowly.
I was smiling because I was gonna also give this tip about patch testing for allergic reactions. And also an important note is that you might say to yourself, well, I've been using this retinoid forever, and now all of a sudden, why am I getting an allergic reaction? And you can develop an allergic reaction over time. In fact, In order to develop an allergic reaction, you need to have been exposed to that thing in the past. So you don't usually get an allergic reaction the first time you're exposed to something, but it's usually the second time you're exposed to something. So it can just show up out of nowhere. So ultimately, you could have an allergic reaction to a product you've been using for a very long time. And so those are the three main issues that you're gonna experience. Now, rarely you can also get a flare of periorificial dermatitis, which can be a red rash around the mouth and the eyes. You can also get a flare of rosacea when you start a retinoid. But these are the main issues that people experience, and this is what you do when you experience them. So allergic reaction is the time where you wanna stop, completely stop using the product, and then if you're gonna use a retinoid again, that's when you're gonna patch test it.
Right, so now we've talked about the three different types of adverse reactions you can have with a topical retinoid specific to irritation, which is going to be by far the majority of people who have any problems with this ingredient. There are some solutions and hacks to make this ingredient work for you. I just spoiler alert, because I was gonna say it's worth it. To make this ingredient work for you because it is worth it. Like pushing through to the back end of this tretinoin journey, to this tazarotene journey, to this retinol journey, it is worth it because over the course of your life, the benefits stack and it's meaningful, and the longer you use it, the actual better results you have.
Now, what the crazy thing is, I was realizing as we were chatting through this video, we mentioned retinol, we mentioned retinaldehyde, also known as retinal, we also mentioned tretinoin. Now, this is the first time in the history of the Dr. Lee channel that we can actually offer to you all three of the entire range of retinoids, which is actually pretty crazy, and I'm actually super proud of that. I was thinking about this. So, Remedy for Porocytes and Remedy for Dark Spots has retinol. Remedy for Healthy Aging has retinaldehyde, and Script has tretinoin, both in 0.025% for sensitive skin, Sensitret. You have 0.05% and 0.1%. We literally have the entire range of retinoid strengths between the both of us.
That is interesting. I feel like I need a shirt, I need something, a fanny pack demonstrating this monumentous occasion, but that's awesome. Okay, cool.
That's how you're gonna ease into these things. Stick with it, it's completely worth it. It's the thing that's transformed my skin the most, and I think you would probably agree with that.
Yeah, I've said this a million times. The Remedy products have been transformative and are a new staple for me. Pores is my go-to, that may change. Then tretinoin though is like, again, something I can't give up, I won't give up. It is the foundation for my skin. Now actually, let me show you this. This is a fun little side. We have this machine, it's called a Vizia. I did this back in Dr. Shah's old office in Charlotte, and he mapped out my face. Just inadvertently, I have it here, and we mapped it out again a year and a half later, and quantifiably with really a core staple of ingredients, and those being tretinoin and Remedy. Those are like the non-negotiables in my routine in terms of active ingredients. Here's the results. Dark spots, down. Pores, down. Fine lines, down. Like, there it is. This is like as objective as I can get, and I can actually thank specifically the retinoid family for those results. I've aged in reverse, some might say. So let me summarize the ways to use this if you develop irritation, because again, like I said, this is gonna be the majority of you who have any problem. 1, start slow. Use it every few nights. Your goal is to work up nightly. So I think you came up with a random rule for this. What was it?
The rule of threes. So if you're new to retinol, for the first month, use it every third night. For the second month, use it every other night. And then for the third month, use it every night.
So you have 3 months, 2 months to get up to nightly. That's a pretty slow way to play it, but a safe way to play it. Next up is layering with moisturizer. Some call this a retinoid sandwich, but it's moisturizer down. Then it's active ingredient. Then it's moisturizer, just to cushion the blow. Also, you inherently dilute it a little bit. And I like to say, this is a Maxfield original, sacrificing efficacy for tolerability. Totally coined that. So I actually created Sensitret for this specific purpose. And I was like, well, what if we just pair that and create a sensitive, like truly double down on the idea of sensitive skin tretinoin, a benign but effective dose of tretinoin, which is 0.025% concentration. And then we have 6, what they like to say is skin-loving ingredients in this. We have ceramides, we have panthenol, we have allantoin, we have squalane, we have glycerin, and then hyaluronic acid. All of that to soothe, add hydration, to kind of nourish the skin and offset what we know is a problem with tretinoin. So Sensitret is all of that hacked rolled into one just to make it perfect for people who are new to tretinoin and those with sensitive skin.
Amazing. So this is the most sensitive form of tretinoin that you can find on the market, and a really good way to basically, it's almost as if it is a retinoid sandwich in and of itself. So it kind of saves you a step there in many ways. So an amazing formula created by Dr. Maxfield. If you want to check out Sensitret, you can get it at scriptderm.com. Accessible, only in the United States, unfortunately, but maybe global one day. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you all in the next video.
We'll see you next time.